Hello there everyone and welcome back to another Zeffo mock update video, and in this video I work on a few more things inside of the Imperial dig site that I was working on in the previous couple episodes, and then I finally start to work on the last large section of the ice caves. So it's a very exciting episode, and without any further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the Zeffo mock update series. This is kind of all the stuff that I got done in the previous episode. Thank you guys for tuning into that episode. It did way better than I thought it would do after such a long break, so I really do appreciate that, guys. Thank you for all the awesome feedback, and it's time to get back to work on this mock. So a couple of changes that I actually just worked on. As you can see in there, I'll go through those, and then it's time to move on to work on the last part of the ice cave. So it's going to be a very exciting episode, but here's kind of everything that I got done in the previous episodes, and I'm going to show you a new addition that I just added. Alright, so the first thing that I did here was work on a new wall design. If you remember, this was all empty down here. By the end of last episode, I did have this all tiled off, and I showed you guys the bridge and the new kind of control room all the way back there. That was all last episode, and that was very fun and exciting, and I was really glad a lot of the feedback I got on that was positive. So the next thing I needed to do was add a little bit of a wall design here to cover up some of the space here. You notice it doesn't go all the way up to the top. There is a reason for that here due to how you're going to be looking at this mock. Since it's going to be kind of made for the convention, you'll mainly just be looking at it through here, so I will need to cover up some more space back there, but kind of some of these angles where you will be seeing the wall, I wanted to make sure you did see some details here, so I made it kind of a panel, if that makes sense, and I did it tiled off with some white detailing because, again, I just didn't want this to be all gray. Maybe the white doesn't fit too well, I'm not sure. I don't mind it, I think it looks okay. And then I also did a couple of kind of small greebling parts on the wall right there. And then on the bottom, as you can see, I've got kind of a cool pattern where I've got some tiles and cheese slopes to create some interesting kind of shapes down there. There's nothing really too specific about it other than I just wanted to do something fun and different and not make it just kind of plain. I wanted something to angle it from the ground up to the wall, so that's kind of what those shapes are at the bottom. And then this is another angle that you'll see the wall from. Last time when you looked through the front of this bunker right here, you could just see straight through the mock, so obviously that had to be changed. And I added in the wall back there, so now there's actually something there to look at. So now that's all covered up. Mostly there's a few more gaps that I need to fill, but just small stuff, getting the mock more prepared, so now you can't see all the way through the mock. This looks a little more complete and is a lot better. So we're getting close to finishing this area. There's still a couple of things I need to work on, covering up some spaces here and there, because when you do look through some of these spots, you do see some gaps that I need to fix, kind of like this area right back here I need to cover up a little bit, and then there's also an area back here on the bunker entrance that you can see through that I need to cover up. But so far it's coming along pretty well. This is kind of the main angle people will look at, and you'll be able to see the wall. So just another small thing to get the mock closer to completion and closer to being able to work on the top part, because this is still just the bottom part of the half. There's still a lot more to do on this mock. One last thing here in the hallways is that I actually started messing around with some of the lights. So you did see that I added a few lights on the Imperial dig site in the previous section that I showed you guys in the last episode, and that actually ended up looking really, really cool. So I'm going to do the same thing for this hallway. So when it's all finished, most of the underground part here of the Imperial headquarters will be lit up with lights. I think it's going to look pretty cool. So here's what I've got so far for the lights on this first part of the Imperial kind of underground dig site area. You saw some of it from the intro. Nothing too special. I'll be working more on lights here in the next couple episodes, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys what exactly I've got so far and how cool all of this is going to look when it's all lit up for Brickworld Chicago for the World of Lights. So that's it for the hallway part on this episode, and now let's go ahead and finally get to work on the ice caves. Alright guys, and going all the way back to the very first episode of this series, I worked on this first ice cave right here. Obviously the ice caves are a big part of Zeffo in the game, one of my favorite parts of the map, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this build was I really like the idea of having the ice caves underneath the actual mock itself, which is why I spent so much time on the bottom layer of the mock. So I got this done in the very first episode, and I said I wanted to do another set of ice caves, but a little bit bigger and a little different. As you can see, this one is just kind of like a couple of rock formations and a little pathway back there. Nothing too crazy, kind of a little cutout like that. So this was the bigger section that I wanted to work on for the ice caves. And I wanted this to be a lot bigger and have multiple platforms and stuff. So here's kind of what I've got going on so far. First off, over here, I've got a very similar kind of rock formation design that I did for the other ice caves, where we just have a bunch of slope pieces and then some of the crystal pieces that I'm using, like trans blue, pieces that I have left over from Mandalore, so these are coming in useful from a previous MOC. That's one of the great things about doing some of these large MOCs is you might spend a lot of time and money and resources trying to collect a lot of these parts for a MOC, and then they might sit in the, bin for a couple years, but then, you might end up using them again, like these trans blue pieces from the Siege of Mandalore MOC from back in 2018 and 2019. So crazy stuff. But here is one rock formation right there, and I just want to do one normal kind of rock formation like that. Over here was something new that I wanted to try, was kind of having a pathway that Cal could run on, something very reminiscent in the game where you kind of can run on these little rock platforms. So I ended up building kind of what I would do for a mountain, but I did it sideways, if that makes sense. So I built them and then layered them on top of each other, put in a couple trans blue pieces to replicate the ice itself or the crystals. And then I ended up attaching a path up here and angled it sideways. And I kind of want to have this be the start of a little walking platform that goes this way. I even started on kind of this back wall design that I actually used before in a previous from start to finish episode for a Sicily MOC, so I thought this would work kind of well. I want to continue that wall with some more ice right there and do a little path, and this kind of angles that way into the last large part of the ice caves. So right here, this is very ambitious, but I really want to try it. So I'll try to get a screenshot from somewhere in the game, but I want this to be the biggest platform in the ice caves. You can see I've already built some of this up. I want it to be kind of upraised right here, and this kind of comes out to a point like this, and this is the height that the whole thing would be built on top of. So you'll be able to like jump from up here or down to there and stuff like that. But I really want to add one of those orange lifts that you see in the game. This is going to be hard to design. Don't know if I have enough pieces or if I should spend the time to do it, but I really want to design one of those lifts and put those right here, just so you can like look through the ice caves and you get all the caves and ice, and you also have a very recognizable lift from the game, and you'll have a little platform right here as well. And I just feel like that'd be so cool to have one of those orange lifts, but I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that or not, but it is on the list of things to try and see if I can pull off. But just for this episode, what I'm gonna try to do is do everything probably except for that orange lift. That might have to be a thing in a different episode along the line, because I have a lot of other things that I need to get done first. But essentially, I'm going to start to work on this area over here, get that finished up, and kind of make this more polished and complete. And hopefully by the end of this episode, I'll have most, if not all, of this ice cave complete. And then we'll have all these bottom layers worked on, and hopefully I'll be ready to start to work on the superstructure that goes inside of this MOC, so I can actually get to the height that the village and everything will be built on. So all right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here's some of the work that I got done. You can see the ground is all tiled off in the black tiles. That way it looks like it kind of just goes down forever, because in the game, if you fall off the ledge, you just fall down and respawn. So the way to replicate that, I've just been doing kind of the black tiles to make it look like it goes down infinitely. And then this was the big part that I worked on right here. So essentially what I did was continued that wall design that I showed you guys in the previous clip. And then in the middle there, I put a bunch of the trans light blue pieces to make it look like the crystals have kind of broken through the wall, or that the wall has eroded a little bit and the crystals are starting to come through. I'm kind of treating this section and a lot of the glass or these pieces, these crystals, as broken glass, like you would for a window. So that's why you're seeing kind of them sprouting out of all these different places and kind of spilled onto the ground. So you can see the ground design right there that I've gone with to show that the crystals are kind of all over the place, and I've got some on the top here as well. I've got it so they're overhanging over the walkway, so when Cal or Stormtrooper or whatever is walking underneath, there's crystals above them to make it seem like the crystals are kind of growing out of every crack that there is in the ice caves, because that's kind of the impression that I got from the game. Here's a little bit of a closer look at all of the ice that I've done here for the ice caves in this part. I wanted to make this feel like a little bit of a walkway here, so that you could have some troopers or Cal or whoever walking through here and maybe fighting a little bit like that, or fighting up against the guys up here. And there's just a closer look at some of those crystals that I was talking about, how it feels like they're kind of breaking through the wall. And then for all of these, since they are trans clear and you can see through them, what I've done is just put a bunch of black bricks behind there to make it just kind of stop so you can't see all the way through the actual trans pieces themselves. And there's some more ice pieces off to the left as well. So I've just kind of been covering this area here with lots of different studs and things like that to really give it some texture. I really wanted lots of texture in the ice caves. So this is what I've got so far for the ice caves. I'm actually liking it quite a lot. Hopefully you guys think it looks good so far. The next step that I've got to do now is work on this big last platform back here, and then we'll be close to finishing up on the ice caves for this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and start to work on this, which will be a lot of work, and I'll update you guys once I have some more progress, but here is kind of the main thing that I've worked on so far for this episode. So here is what I've got for this back part here. You can see I did a little bit of slope work and then transitioned to more of kind of a broken down wall design. I wanted to replicate a similar design that I had over on this section. So you can see I've done that over there on that side as well with some more details and things like that. And then I started off doing some slopes and then transitioned into the wall. Something I'm now considering is, do I even need to have these slopes here? Should I just knock out all those slopes and do this wall design right here all the way across? Like, does it look weird that some of it's sloped and some of it's the broken wall? I'm kind of thinking it does look a little weird, so I might just end up doing this same design all the way across over here as well. So that's one thing that I'm going to ask you guys to reply to in the comment section below, is should I continue that broken wall design all the way down and get rid of that middle slope part right there? I want to keep this little edge right there, but I really do like the way those turned out. Another thing I might do is, it's lacking a lot of crystal elements right now, like the ice cave part. It's lacking a lot of that, so it looks very plain. And it doesn't fit in with the rest of the area. So one thing I might do is replace some of those studs over there, those dark gray studs, with actually trans light blue studs to give it more of the crystal look, because there's not much crystal action going on over here. It's a lot more just dark gray. So I might end up doing that. But for now, the next thing I'm going to do is, you can see I've got the base back there. I'm going to start to build kind of a ground design. I might do some more like rock designs like this with some more crystals or something like that. Not too sure yet, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the orange lift in this episode. I just have a lot more pressing things to work on, which include, you know, the entire rest of the MOC with the different layers and stuff and such. I really need to get to work on that before I run out of time. So I don't think I'm going to work on the giant orange lift for this episode or for a while. I'm just going to kind of complete this upset, this section up here, get that all detailed out and see what it's looking like, and then give you guys a final update for this episode. Here is everything that I got done here in this last section. So the first thing you'll notice is that I added in a lot of the ice elements there, and I kind of made it so they did spill over a little bit, as you can see on some of the sides over there. I decided to add a couple of studs and replace the dark gray parts to make it look like some of those ice elements have actually spilled over into the actual cave itself down the bottom there. You'll also notice a lot of different things that I added to the back there, and we'll go over that here in a second, kind of get you guys' thoughts on there. But here's what we're looking at down from kind of this angle right here. I really wanted you to still be able to see a lot of those ice elements to make it fit in with the rest of the cave. As you noticed in the previous clip, there really just wasn't much of the ice elements there on that backside, so I really wanted to add that in. Here's a top-down look at what I got done. You can see I actually added in quite a lot of the ice elements in there. I wanted to make the ground have a lot of ice there because I didn't really know what else to put. I didn't want it to just be a bunch of exposed studs of the kind of plates on the bottom there of dark gray, so I added in a lot more ice elements on the ground right there itself. Kind of a similar design that I did on the bottom over here, but a little bit more and a little bit more frequent for that. Another thing you'll see here, I was looking at the screenshots and I did notice that there was kind of these interesting patterns going on that wasn't rock or ice. Like, there was actually some industrial elements that were actually built into the rock itself. So I decided to try to replicate that here. It was a little risky because the colors are completely different than anything else in the ice caves, but I was looking at the colors in the game, and this is the best that I could come up with here. I decided to do half of the circle, even though in the game there's a full circle. I didn't want to make the full circle, so I just did a half a circle, and there seems to be some like elements of rust throughout this area of the map itself. So to replicate that, I did medium nougat and put some 1x1s around the edge right there to make it look like it's kind of rusted over. That was the best color I could think of. If you guys have a different idea of what color I could use to replicate like rust, like metal rust, definitely let me know, but this is what I came up with. And then down there to the actual floor design, I just used some sand blue elements and dark gray. There just seemed to be, sand blue seemed to be the best color to represent what I saw in the game. And there are also a bunch of other sand blue elements throughout the map as well, in different parts of like the front landing pad and stuff like that. So I thought sand blue would be the best to do right here. Another thing you'll notice is I built some crates. This was something new that I haven't really tried before. This was a pretty large crate. Normally I make very small crates, and I've just never really tried to make a larger crate of a design. So I saw there's a bunch of boxes and crates throughout this area of the build, or of the map itself. So I decided to try to replicate that right here. I can do an in-depth kind of showcase of the crate if you guys want, but it's really nothing too special. Just decided to make 2 of those right there, and I think it actually just adds to the space quite well. So my big question is, what do you guys think of this area right here? Do the white crates and a lot of the medium nougat and sand blue, does that throw off this area? Does it not fit in very well? Personally, I actually like the difference in color because I was getting a little tired of just the 2 colors, I guess 3 colors with the black, dark gray, and blue, but I think these actually work pretty well in terms of a color palette, and from what I looked at in the game, this seemed to look pretty accurate. There also was some antennas in the area, but I didn't get around to doing those. I just did this half circle as well as some crates, and maybe I'll add more, but I don't want to make this area super crowded. So this is kind of what we're looking at for the ice caves right now. When I started this episode, I didn't have anything here, and this is what I came up with, and I'm actually fairly happy with it. I do like this spot here on the left with Cal down there. I think that little area, that walkway area, looks pretty good, and I'm actually quite happy with the way this top part looks right there. If I did want to add the lift, that orange lift, it would go behind that little platform that I just showed you guys if I want to add that in the future. So there is a possibility to do that. I just wasn't able to get to it for this episode. But the replacement that I found for it in terms of that platform and some of the crates, those boxes, I think they actually work pretty well. So overall, I'm very happy with this section. Not exactly what I imagined when I started the build or kind of what I had in the plans, but that's normal for a large-scale MOC like this. You have these big extravagant plans, it doesn't really turn out exactly the way you want it to, so you kind of have to compromise and figure out what is the best and most realistic when you're working on a timetable like I am, where I've got lots of school going on and I have to get this done before a convention and all sorts of fun stuff like that. But what I was able to come up with I think looks pretty good. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on what you guys think of this section now that both of the ice caves are complete. We have kind of a simple one over here with just a small little ice cave element right there, and then we've got the bigger and more complex one right here, and hopefully be able to have some cool action scenes in the finished MOC itself. So what's going to happen next on this MOC is I'm going to, for next episode, get all the support beams built underneath here and then start to get the groundwork on top so I can build the actual major element of the MOC. This first phase for these first couple episodes was I needed to get everything on this bottom layer complete so that I could work on the structure that goes inside so that I'll be able to build the actual where most of the MOC is going to go, which is kind of up here. So a little nerve-wracking. I still don't know exactly how I'm going to support everything and get the superstructure underneath built, but that's part of the fun of experimenting with Lego. So stay tuned for that on the next episode where I really start to figure out how am I going to build this thing up to the height that I want it to be. But for now, the bottom stuff is done. I will, work on a few things here and there as needed and fix some things up, especially after hearing you guys' feedback. But I really need to start working on what's going to take the longest, which is the top part of the MOC. So that's going to be it for this episode. I am very, very excited to move on and get to some of the other elements because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first couple episodes and hopefully you like the progress, but make sure to let me know if you have any things that you think I should change or work on or add or implement, anything like that. Definitely let me know in the comment section below. And that's about it. So let's go ahead and move on to the outro. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you did enjoy. I was able to get a lot of work done this episode, and I'm very happy to be almost complete with the ice caves here because now I get to move on to the rest of the MOC, which is going to be very fun but also very challenging. I'm already trying to figure out ways of how am I going to do this? How am I going to build this thing up almost, I think it's a little over 20 bricks high. How am I going to support it? How am I going to be able to transport it? So many questions that I have to think about, but also I have to save for next episode as I finish up this episode here and get this outro done and edit the video. But next episode is going to be very exciting. But in terms of this episode, definitely let me know your thoughts and opinions on the ice caves in particular. Do you think they look well? Do you think they look like they represent something from the game? Does it remind you of the game? Do you think there's some things that need to change or some things I need to add? All the normal stuff that you guys do that I really, really appreciate in the comment section below. So it's fun to be building. I love it. This was a ton of fun to get back to building. And the ice caves I had a lot of fun with. There's something about those trans light blue pieces that ever since when I did Mandalore and now this MOC, they just are so much fun to do and use and play around with. So I love building in that particular color. I think it's really fun, and I think it accents really well with black and then also with the dark bluish gray. So that's it. I'm gonna stop talking now because I have a lot more work to do and I'm just procrastinating because I'm trying to figure out how am I gonna build this thing up 22 bricks high, but that's a problem for next episode, and that's about it. So as always, leave your feedback in the comment section below. Hope you guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.